Hi, I'm Joella from Inspired Quilting and Sewing in Plant City, Florida. I'm here to demonstrate the Creative Grids scallop template ruler that was designed by Krista Moser. We have this quilt in our shop that we've done this on. It's fairly simple, and if you want to step over here, I can demonstrate how to do that. This ruler has multiple sizes on it. You have the small, the medium, and the large. And each area has its own way you'll have to turn it. How you start off the ruler, at least when I do it, I always start in a corner. So I can line my center grid, my center line on the ruler there. I take my pencil and I go around the corner. You can use a friction flex pen like I am using. There is these are wonderful because they're nice and thick by the chalk liner pens. Those are a really great item to use on it. Any kind of marking tool that you feel comfortable with. So once you've marked the first corner, then you will go and decide what you're going to do. On this one, I'm going to use the small curve. I'm going to go with the small curve. So where I ended the curve, you would line your ruler up, the small end in that area. You want to look at these lines that are on your ruler to help center it so you're not going too crazy. And then you would mark your quilt and then stopping at the 6, because there's 6 inches is what you have here. Then you would stop at your 6, and then you would flip your ruler over, line your 6 line up with that, and then draw your line again. Now, being that this is a small ruler, I will do this flipping back and forth all the way to the end. Well, about halfway through, I should say. And then, when I get about halfway through it, you gotta make sure you keep it the small section going, I will flip to the other end. I do not cut it until I have it all drawn out. You may not be able to see that line real well, but I can see it. I'm just trying to make it so y'all can see it too.
Because that's actually your cutting line, right, Joella?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the reason why I use a chalk or a friction, because you may have to alter it, and I personally don't want to show. So that's just something I feel more comfortable with working with. But whatever marking template that you want to use to mark with, you can do it. And you go all the way down. Now, if you have a very large quilt and you want to estimate it differently, you can. If you watch Krista Moser, she'll show you how to make the templates. So you can go, because sometimes they won't line up all the way. And so you're going to have to like make it bigger or smaller. You can go through and
You have to do some fudging along the way.
Fudging along the way. But how I like to do it is, like I said, I go along about halfway, and then I come to the other end of the quilt, and I've already done part of it. I've already done part of the quilt so that it will be finished. So what I'm going to do is I have to flip it over, make sure I have the small side, small, and I'll flip it over, because right here's the curve that I've already cut that out. I'm making sure it's lined up right there so I'm not too wonky.
So you're just lining it up where your curve that you've already cut.
Curve is there, and I also look at lines on my quilt.
Okay.
So that, because you have lines in here that you can line things up with. Because otherwise you can get really wonky, and ask me how I know.
The voice of experience.
I have done this quite a bit. If you've ever watched the Comet Sold shows that we have on Tuesday night, you've noticed some of my quilts that I curve just the edges. I like to do that. If there's a lot of points in it, I like to just go around and just put it on the corner.
Just give it a curved corner.
Just to
it
softens
it.
It softens it up, and that's what I like. I have another quilt here in the store that has a bicycle on it that I've done that. It's still hanging downstairs right now at the time of this video.
We're always looking for different ways to make a quilt a little more interesting in the finishing of it. Now, let's talk about bias.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about bias.
Yes, it is a must. You must do biased binding. In whatever way you like to do your bias binding, as far as there's all different type of videos on that. But yes, you must do it. Otherwise, it's not gonna.
You've got to have that
nice.
give and stretch to go around the corners and in the valleys and things like that. So bias binding is a must when you're doing this. Now, on your quilt where you did just the corners, did you do bias binding?
No.
Okay.
But I make sure that I have a nice round, a big curve on it.
Okay.
Because if you don't, then you're going to have the same problem. It will pucker.
Right.
I learned that by trial by error. I learned that also.
Hey, that's the way we learn best.
So I've learned that when I want to curve it, I make it a nice curve.
Okay.
So that's a little bit bigger.
Let me see if we can get it where they can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay. Okay, now this is where we're going to have to kind of
Play.
fudge it a little bit.
We're going to be creative.
Because right here is where I ended. And this is where if you are really particular, this is where you could make a whole bunch of papers and you would be able to find out exactly how to place them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. I usually, like I said, kind of figure out where I'm at, and then I'll kind of make it work. If I have to shorten this a little bit, then I'll shorten this so I can come down here, and then this will be shorter over here. There's always a way.
Right.
And with the ruler, and that's again why I like to use either something that's going to go away or a chalk or something, so that you don't.
So you don't see your mark.
You don't see your
mark.
mark.
You have to alter them.
Exactly.
Which is what you're doing right now.
That's exactly what I'm doing, because right here's my line, but right here's my line, but here's my other line.
So we need to do some fudging.
So I'm going to slide this over, so this curve is not going to be as big as what it was. And see how that would show if I would have used like a permanent marker or something like that. That's why you never want to do anything permanent. You want to make sure you have
something you can get rid of.
Yep. See, I'm actually I'm making it a little bit smaller. Instead of taking it to 6, I'm taking it to the 1. So I could do a little bit of a curve here. Now let's kind of shorten this one up over here.
Marcia, are you up there? Marcia.
And then, once you have it all marked the way you like it, you can use your rotary cutter. I am not confident with that. I have done that, and I have whoopsed, and so then I had a little more curve than what I planned on. So I prefer to use scissors for mine, because I know I'm not going to miscut all the stuff.
So now she's just going to cut on her drawn line. Hold it so it doesn't pull. And even though she made some of the curve right there where they met a little bit shorter or not quite as wide of a curve, it all blends together. It all just meshes together. When you get the template, there's complete instructions with it, and then Krista Mosier does a great job, some videos, some YouTubes and things like that. Creative Grids also offers videos on their Creative Grids USA. So if you need backup or just a visual, which most of us quilters are visual people, you've got something to reference.
Now, what makes this so wonderful is you only have to do it 2 times. You have to do one side and the top of the side. And then in order to get the whole thing to match up, you just fold it in half.
Voila!
That is what I do for mine.
Look at that.
And then that way you can just take your pen and outline it and then cut it out. And that's how easy it is. So you would do this side and then you would refold it.
So you could get the other
And
side.
the other side, and that way if one side's a little wonky, the other side's a little wonky, so it's meant to be. That's how I view it.
That's right.
That it is meant to be that way. That you didn't make a mistake. This is the way it's supposed to be. And then you can just go back over and then again trace your.
Well, that way it is uniform.
Correct. So you're not looking off on one side and then the other one not being off.
So what she's saying is she did a top and a side and then fold it in half 2 different times.
So the top.
And look how cool that is. Look how much that simple. I mean, this is a simple quilt. This is a panel in the center with some extra borders, but just by scalloping it, it just adds to it and makes it really elegant looking. So, thank you so much, Joella.
My pleasure.
We appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
I hope you enjoy it.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.